Welcome to the Parenting Power Podcast, supporting parents with the real-life tools they need to raise the confident, interdependent people the world needs. Gail Bell and Julie Freedman Smith interview experts who share their knowledge to assist parents in creating a home environment where kids can thrive.
Hi, welcome to the Real Life Parenting Podcast. I'm Julie Freedman Smith.
And I'm Gail Bell.
Today's tool for the trade is brought to you by our sponsor, beanersfuncuts.com. Shop for your favorite hair products online at beanersfuncuts.com.
Today we're going to discuss children wanting more privacy. And we do happen to be taping this particular podcast during the virus, where we all have been instructed to stay home to respect that social distancing. When all of us are in the home for an extended period of time, patients can waiver. So Julie and I have posted things that we can do to help our family structure our day a little bit more. But we specifically want to talk about how we can allow some privacy for our children.
So first of all, let's talk about how we can use time to give our kids privacy. With all the different things that are happening with everybody in the same home, it can be confusing to try to figure out how to separate our kids, because it's sometimes easier for them to be together. If they're playing together, we know where they both are, or one of us can keep an eye on multiple children instead of us not knowing quite how safe they are. But if we can set aside in our family schedule some chunks of time where people are separated, either one child goes off to play or one child does something a little bit more private, if we can build that into our schedule, then the kids know that there's also an opportunity for them to come back together. And it's for a finite piece of time. You're not sending them away because they were bad. You're not suddenly telling them to go somewhere else. You're letting them know that built into the schedule, there's time for people to spend time apart, as well as people to spend time together. And using a clock or a timer or even music, listen to these 3 songs and then we can come back together. So creating time within your day for people to be separated can be a big help, especially if you have children who are sharing the same room. Set aside chunks of time in the day where one of them is in the room on their own, and then the other one can be in the room on their own, so that they have a sense of predictability because it's in the schedule. They know that it's not because they were bad, but the clock can help them to know when they're going to have that chunk of time to be on their own.
That's super helpful. And we know with little ones that they need that predictability. And it doesn't always have to be that Joe gets the bedroom first and then Sam gets it later. You could flip-flop during the day. So think about that too. With older kids, it's a different scenario, right? Sometimes when you get into the teenager years, they want more privacy and more so you got to know that's a normal part of development. But we have to look at the other end of the scale for older ones. So if you've got kids that want to be in their rooms all day, probably not that healthy. That's a time to talk, we hope, at a family meeting about what's going to work for your family and what's not. And you need to discuss the rules that you feel are important for your family regarding privacy. So are they allowed to have their electronics in there? We're taping this during the virus. Maybe there's a little more wiggle room on that. That's up to your family. Does the door need to stay open? Can it be closed? So talk about what's relevant for your family. Are they sneaking in snacks in there? I heard from a client the other day that that's what she found out they were doing. So just set the rules and set everybody up for success. Knock before you enter. There's lots of things to consider there.
Definitely. And so if we're not using time, the other thing we can use is space. So if you physically don't have a lot of space in your home for people to have their own privacy, maybe you've only got a few rooms, or maybe you've changed the way rooms are being divided so that home office space can be created, then we can physically demarcate that space. So if you can use painter's tape to delineate an individual space, or perhaps what your office space is, if you are working at the dining room table, but you need your kids to stay away and give you privacy while you're working, maybe make that space there, or have something that you're putting on to say, when I'm wearing this hat, or when I have this scarf on, or where you see this stop sign, that's a marker that I need some privacy. And when I'm done my work, when the timer goes off, I'll finish my work, put down the stop sign or take off the scarf, and then it's time for you to connect with me. So there's an opportunity to use some visuals in the space to let people know when you need privacy.
Yeah, and model. If you're working from home, that's a working day. But because you're working at home doesn't mean you don't get your own privacy time as well.
Sure.
So model, and use your words and tell the kids, you know what? From 4:30 to 5, I need privacy. And maybe that's when you're on your Instagram or you're checking your Facebook or whatever, but say, I'm going into my room, I'm closing the door, I'll come back out at 5 and I'm all yours. So model.
And we know from talking to parents with younger kids that just telling them that isn't enough. We also need to set them up with something that they're going to do during that time as well. This is reminding me of one more thing. If you have a child who's 6 or 7 and suddenly they're asking for privacy where they never used to ask for privacy and you're worried that something's wrong, this is exactly the time developmentally that kids start to want more privacy. So don't panic. It's really, really normal. And we're happy to answer any of your questions here on our podcast. So if you have any, please drop us a line, admin@parentingpower.ca. Share this with your friends. And thanks for joining us for another episode of Tools for the Trade. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Real Life Parenting Podcast. If you're looking for more real life parenting tools, then please sign up for our weekly Thoughtful Thursday email newsletter. It's free and it's really good. Just visit our website, parentingpower.ca, to subscribe. While you're there, check out our book, A Year of Intentional Parenting. Like this podcast, the book was created to help you feel confident, capable, and calm. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to connecting with you again right here every Monday.